Kia ora, good evening. Recent rain in the south will have been welcomed by farmers, but for some it's come too late. Parts of Southlands' farming sector are facing big decisions in coming weeks as ground temperatures drop and last-minute growth is unlikely to produce the feed needed over winter. Some Southland farmers have been hit hard by climatic conditions and could face a tough 6 months ahead. Southland Rural Support Chairman Lindsay Wright says the realisation that soil temperatures are dropping and growth has slowed is forcing farmers to make decisions and says they should now be looking ahead to next year.
To ring fence this season, deal with it as it is, but protect next season's capital stock and your whole season next to the best of your ability.
He says farmers need to be aware of the mental stress the dry situation can cause.
The mental issue is something that we often don't see until further down the track, and that's something that as a trust we're very concerned about, because the mental side of things can, if a person gets themselves into a stress position they can't handle, then their decision making process can change and then it becomes a spiral which we don't want to see.
He says there's talk in the industry of some sheep farmers facing quite constrained financial conditions, stuck between providing feed or selling stock at low prices to freezing works already at full capacity. Dairy farmers also facing effects from a dry season.
For a dairy farmer, they have to try and balance between extending their milking season as long as possible versus keeping their cow condition up for the winter and for next year and for calving.
Dairy farmer Ricky Kane says they're normally unaffected by dry conditions.
Well, we've had to cull out a lot more cows than what we usually would earlier on. So, well, as opposed to this time last season, we were still milking probably 630 cows. This year we're milking 470 cows. So it's quite a significant loss. And then the cows had to be sold because you can't really feed them. And that's probably the biggest effect of it, really, more than anything.
Summer floods enabled farmers to get ahead with silage and baleage, stockpiling feed, but that advantage is quickly coming to an end as farmers start to tap into feed earmarked for spring.
I think having the stock low and keeping plenty of feed on hand, just in case, because you get that again, it can be a pinch. As of what we're already dipping into next year's feed as it is, and we have been for the last month or so now, so it's going to be a significant loss.
He says in this situation there's potential for feed prices to skyrocket, but dairy farmer John Van Vliet remains optimistic.
I'm still hoping that feed prices will come down to secure some feed going into the spring. I already secured some, but I like to save myself and secure a bit more, really.
However, he says he's still far from having the feed stores he needs. One option dairy farmers have is drying off cows early, but the cost of feed puts them no further ahead. He says farmers need to work on their feed budgets to have confidence moving forward. The full financial costs of the dry conditions facing some farmers are unlikely to be known until spring. Margot Sutherland, South Today News. For the second time in just over a week, Southlands Riding for the Disabled program has been faced with potentially serious incidents after gates have been tampered with. Someone opened the gate to an adjoining paddock on the weekend of April 6th, and the organisation's 7 horses ate too much red clover, making them sick and putting 3 out of action due to the severity of their illnesses. There was also potential for them to get onto a nearby road. The incident prompted a security review and padlocks were added to gates, but there was another incident last weekend with someone deliberately cutting through a wire gate which could have seen the horses get loose. Operations Manager Ruth Clark says she hopes the actions are not deliberate.
Because we sort of don't understand why someone would want to do that. We have had the police down, so they've taken a report of it. They said it's not a normal act of vandalism. They can't really explain it, so they are looking into things. So all we can do is just keep doing what we're doing and take all measures such as padlocking and making sure that they're all safe as much as we can be. If someone, they want to, it's like a robber, if they want to get into your house, they will. You can't stop it.
Now, what's been the impact for the kids that take part in the classes here?
Shorter rides, not being able to use the ponies that they would normally work with. As you can imagine, some children, to have a significant change in an environment can be quite impacting on their behaviour, their comfort when they're here, and even to receive the therapy that they need. So David, who was on Friday, he's our instructor. He has his plan and his set, and it's he works with these kids and have been for a long time. To suddenly have that pony removed was a significant impact. We had half rides to start with, and kids actually were quite concerned. They responded, they got quite upset, some of them, especially one boy in particular over Corky.
So you have already stepped up security. Will you be taking more measures as well?
The police will be doing patrols when they can, and we are hoping to try and get this fence up as soon as possible. Apart from what we're doing, there's not much more we can do at this stage. Yeah.
A man was taken to hospital following a blaze in a shed at a Kennington property near Invercargill last night. Emergency services were called to the blaze on Remu Road at 6 p.m. and it was well involved at that time. Specialist fire investigator Paul Glanville says the fire was caused by a diesel fuel orchard heater. The owner suffered minor burns to his hands and some smoke inhalation trying to remove it from the building. Around 2/3 of the building was destroyed. Mr Glanville says the fire serves as a reminder to use appropriate heating sources. Southland teachers and education staff took to the streets at the weekend in protest at government's education policy. More than 100 people from teachers to parents marched from middle school to Wagner Place in Invercargill on Saturday. They were among the more than 10,000 participating in marches around the country as part of the National Day of Action, organised by union NZEI. NZEI organiser Dale Belcher says the idea was to celebrate quality public education and to show opposition to the global education reform movement. She says the union wants to keep pressure on government as the sector doesn't want standardisation for students. After the break, a piece of Southlands sporting history is knocked to the ground. Welcome back. A piece of Southlands sporting history was knocked to the ground this morning. The Athletics Invercargill building was demolished this morning as part of the Stadium Southland redevelopment. The building was home to the club since 1968 with a replacement planned for the other side of the running track. President Tony Kennedy says the club has been in negotiations with the Stadium Southland Trust over the building, with the Trust wanting a wider driveway for the stadium rebuild. The new building will be worth an estimated $300,000 to $500,000 with the Trust to pay.
It is a sad event in the true sense of the word, but with getting a new building out of it, hopefully the club will move forward eventually within 6 months. A lot of people didn't want it to go inside the club, but reason come through in the end, and the logic of having moved from here away from in front of the stadium entranceway was a must.
So moving into the new building, that's not going to happen for several months?
Yeah, that's correct. At the moment we're hoping to be close to October, but it could be as late as December. It depends on completion work and how long it takes SIT to build it for us, which we're very grateful for, so that's why we're waiting. Quite happy to wait that period of time.
So how will it affect the club's season then?
Harrier season through the winter, of course, like it is at the moment, it's usually raining, cold, snow, and everything's done outside. But the start of the summer season for the training for the young ones and that, we will need facilities, and St Paul's come along and they're offered us to use their rooms, as well as we've got the underside of the stadium, the grandstand, and stadium, of course. So we have got somewhere to go. It's just, it's sort of not quite home, so you don't feel like it's where you should be.
The average farm worker is now earning $5,500 more than the New Zealand average annual wage and salary earner. According to the Federated Farmers Rabobank Farm Employee Remuneration Survey, wages for most pastoral farm positions have continued to increase. The average farm worker now earns $5,500 more than the average New Zealand wage earner, with the average salary more than $49,000 when non-wage benefits are included. The survey covers almost 4,000 positions from almost 1,200 farm employers. It does not include the impact of the 2012 to 13 drought. The future of South Invercargill and work of the South Alive group were the topics of discussion at a public meeting themed Touch, Pause, Engage. The South Alive group held its second annual community planning event to identify projects and priorities for the next 12 months, asking the public for their thoughts yesterday. Around 150 people were at the event, held a year to the day since the group began. Coordinator Jeanette Malcolm says among new projects identified for the coming year, extending planting and rubbish pickup programs, a park for teenagers, a skills program involving the elderly and children, and a Meet the Neighbours program. Hundreds of people got a behind-the-scenes look at the Invercargill Police station at the weekend. The station opened the doors for tours yesterday, giving the public a look at the workings of their local police station. Southland Area Commander Inspector Lane Todd says just over 1,500 people went through the station, the first open day to be held in Invercargill in around 24 years. He says it was a great opportunity for the public to have a look at the work police do and also to celebrate the region's reduced crime statistics. Hundreds of people turned out for an event targeting women in Invercargill at the weekend. The Women's Lifestyle Expo drew an estimated more than 4,000 people to the ALT Velodrome on Saturday and Sunday. Promoters say the majority of people through the doors were women, although men also attended. The Expo had more than 120 companies with products ranging from jewellery to fitness. Attendance exceeded expectations, and it's hoped the Expo will return to the city next year, although it would likely be held at Stadium Southland. And that's it from news. Coming up in sport, another loss for the Highlanders. We bring you the weekend's Super 15 action. That's after the weather next. Good night.